Let's talk about how you do not need to speak Spanish to teach Spanish at home. Hola familia, my name is Catherine and I am a Spanish teacher for homeschoolers. And if that's you, let's talk about how you can teach Spanish without knowing a whole lot of Spanish. It is very real to feel like, I'm going to teach it wrong or my pronunciation is bad. I can't answer any questions, but I promise you can do this without fluency. Okay, so keep in mind here that we want to rethink your role. You are not the Spanish expert, you are not the pronunciation model, unless you do speak Spanish, y en este caso, claro que puedes dar clase de español. Bueno, but if you didn't quite understand that or it took you a moment to catch on, no pasa nada, that's fine. All right. You are, like I said, not the expert, not the model, but you are the organizer, the encourager, and the consistency keeper. It's sort of like hiring a piano teacher, even though you don't play piano, right? If you're not the language expert, then what actually matters? What really matters here is consistency. Consistency is so much more important than perfection. So, whether that means you are diving into Spanish at home with your learner or offering them an opportunity to learn Spanish through another resource or tool, it means that we're doing it consistently. It also means that we are exposing them rather than explaining, and I'll talk more about this in a minute, and building confidence rather than focusing on correctness. And I know I talked about that when I talked about gifted learners, which a lot of your learners are. It's really important to say that short, regular practice beats like long, rare, out of the ordinary sessions because that builds consistency, it builds routine, and it builds a sense of emotional safety, which we know is really important for teens and preteens. So, what does this look like when we actually do it? There are three core ideas that I want to share with you. The first of these is comprehensible input. What do I mean when I say comprehensible input? I mean input, things that we are receiving that are comprehensible. They make sense, right? So, what that looks like is listening and reading that we mostly understand and offering visuals, gestures, and context. It does not mean translating. Translating as a teaching tool doesn't really work. Translators on their own are great tools to find like one word or another word, but my issue with translators is that they don't provide context. But that's a topic for another video. In this case, we don't want to translate as teaching because our goal is that we want our kids to be able to use Spanish, right? So if we want them using Spanish, we have to expose them to Spanish that they can understand, which comes back to this idea of comprehensible input. We also want to make sure that we're giving our learners structured practice. That means we have a clear start and stop, whether we're setting a schedule for that practice or we build a predictable routine. And then we also build in review. So, one nice thing about classes and apps is that a teacher will strategically build in review. So, if you are the teacher in this case, you want to make sure that whatever we learned last week is sneaking its way into the content this week, and then it's sneaking its way into the content in the future because the one thing that really helps language stick is practice and repetition. So the more we can repeat those ideas by reviewing them, the stronger those skills are going to be. So the good news is that none of this requires you to speak Spanish. What you will actually be doing on a day-to-day basis is hitting play on a lesson or an audio or a video. I love sharing resources. If you need ideas for resources, let me know, and I'm happy to share videos and audios with you. You'll sit nearby and motivate and encourage your learner. And then also ask them, what did you understand? What was confusing? Let's break it down together. Let's see if we can use what we do understand to make sense of the rest of it. We also want to encourage effort. So, encouraging our learners to put in the effort, to take the time to think. So many kids these days, they want a quick answer. And with language, there is no quick answer. We have to take the time to think it through and break it down. So that's where you come in to be a cheerleader and to encourage them and motivate them to use their skills and build their knowledge and activate that prior knowledge that they have to make connections with the language. What we don't want to do is rely on Translate as a teacher. Like I said, translators are not good teaching tools. It's great for like one word if you know that that word is correct. There's another website that I like more called Word Reference. I'll leave it down in the information below because it gives context. Translators don't give context. We also don't want to force early speaking. Go check out my video about gifted learners when I talk about early speaking because it puts so much pressure on the learner to produce ideas that they're just not ready to share. We also don't want to correct every mistake. That one's tricky because we hear mistakes, we want to correct them, we want to make sure that it's right. But at the beginning, sharing in Spanish is so much more important than sharing correctly in Spanish. The correctness will come over time with that practice. Like I said, practice is the most important thing. We also don't want to jump between programs. So if you choose a program, stick with it for a while, give it a good try, maybe 4 to 6 weeks before you abandon that program because it's just not working for you. I understand that maybe we have a first time class or first time with an activity and we don't like it and it's hard, but some experts took the time to put that together. I hope some experts took the time to put that together and they really know that it could work. So give it a try. That's my suggestion. And then really, really, really avoid long grammar lectures and heavy worksheets. If you need suggestions for grammar, I have tons of resources that I'm happy to share with you, but only in the case that your learner has asked or they're consistently getting stuck on that grammar concept. Otherwise, grammar lectures are boring. Do you want to sit through a grammar lecture? Me neither. So let's not make our kids do it. And then all of this is especially important if your child learns differently. So I have a series of videos where I answered questions about gifted learners, and I have more videos coming up about working with neurodivergent learners. But if that applies to you, make sure you check out those videos because I do have a lot of resources available to you if you are supporting your learner who is neurodivergent or gifted, right? Everybody learns differently, everybody has different needs. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting our learners in the best way possible. So a simple structure to start engaging with Spanish could be taking 3 or 4 days a week to engage with listening practice, some reading, maybe some optional guided practice where we're working through something together. And then you might consider either a live class. I offer live classes. If you're interested, check out my website down below. Or a conversation group. There might be a local conversation group or even a local homeschool conversation group where kids are meeting up to practice in Spanish or to work together and learn things in Spanish. Regardless of what you choose, let's keep it short where it's not overwhelming. Maybe we aim for 15 or 30 minutes to get started. And then as your child gets older or as they progress, we might build that time up. I know for older kids, for me, I mostly work with teenagers and we usually have like 30 or 45-minute sessions. With a group, I might have 50 minutes. But with a conversation, I would really keep it shorter down to like 30 minutes because otherwise it's just boring and hard and our brains are getting fried from having to produce in another language for so long. Keeping all of this in mind, remember, in those frustrating moments where you don't have the answers because you are not an expert on Spanish, you're not failing, right? You're doing everything that you can. Your accent is not ruining their Spanish. What they need is consistency, support, and the right resources. Fluency grows from exposure, not from parent expertise. So, my suggestion to you is that you look for resources that are accessible to you, that are interesting for your child. Maybe that's a class, maybe that's a conversation group, maybe that's a curriculum, maybe it's an app. It's whatever works for you and your child and your family at this time. And that can always change. If you're looking for more information about supporting your child who is either gifted or neurodivergent, be sure to check out those videos listed on my playlist over here. And I will see you in the next one, familia. Remember, you don't need to be fluent, you just need to be consistent. Ciao.